the pass to Marvin Jones down the seam, it showed a couple of things. Marvin Jones has NFL quick hands. It looked like pro guy throwing the other pro guy.
Welcome to Jaguars Reporters, presented by TIAA Bank, with Brian Sexton, John Osier, Ashlyn Sullivan, and J.P. Shadrick. Jaguars Reporters, presented by TIAA Bank, starts right now.
Welcome into the Jaguars Reporters podcast. Today is Tuesday, August 3rd. J.P. Shadrick, Brian Sexton, John Osier, Ashlyn Sullivan. First day in pads is in the books. Week 2 of training camp is well underway now. And plenty to react to after the first day. Trevor Lawrence bounced back from a tough Monday with a number of nice throws today, I thought, Ashlyn. And, that's a good sign that he bounced back from a day like yesterday.
Yeah, and I think we all expected that to happen. We spoke to his college teammate, running back Travis Etienne, yesterday, who said, every football player has an off day. And I truly think that's what that was from what we saw with Trevor. Bounced back like we all imagined he would, and I expect that he'll just keep growing. And it seems like besides that one day, every single day he's grown more comfortable and more confident, taking more risks downfield. I thought he threw one of his best throws of training camp today to Marvin Jones. Yeah. We all kind of looked at each other and said, wow, that was pretty. He seems to have one of those throws almost every practice.
There will be more days where you recognize that he's a rookie quarterback. I mean, Peyton Manning threw 28 interceptions his rookie season, right? I mean, he's a rookie quarterback. You're going to have those. But did anybody doubt that he was going to come out today? I mean, from what you've seen of him in his college career, that he was going to come out and play better? You learn in this league two ways, on the practice field and on Sundays. And he's a guy who is going to absorb and move forward.
Well, first of all, I thought he looked better Monday on the 3 interception day or 2, however you count it, in the second half of practice than he did the first. So I was actually more encouraged after that the wheels didn't come off. There wasn't oh my goodness, I can't make certain throws. He kept making them, and I thought the second half of that practice, I thought he was fine. Wasn't surprised he came back today. There is a little bit of an element, and I think we all fell into it. The defensive backs last week were playing with their hands behind their backs.
Yes.
So when they first got out there on Monday and Tuesday, it was clearly going to be different. If you took that stuff last week out of the equation, you would look over 2 days right now and think, okay, this is how a rookie quarterback's supposed to look, and you'd be incredibly encouraged by the fact that today, as you guys said, the pass to Marvin Jones down the seam, it showed a couple of things. Marvin Jones has NFL quick hands because he made a nice catch on that ball and made it look really easy. It looked like pro guy throwing the other pro guy.
Well, I think that's it. He's learning what professional football players look like, what they move like. I mean, no matter who he was playing against in the ACC, he was able to overpower certain routes just because he was Trevor Lawrence. Mm-hmm. And he had great receivers who were playing in the National Football League. And against Wake Forest, you're throwing against a guy who's going to be going to law school the next week, right? Or whenever he goes on.
Wow, Wake Forest hate.
Yeah.
The team that's not hate.
Alive and well. Top rope.
Not a fan, eh?
I'm a fan of the academics there is what I'm saying. I mean, it's Duke. You choose your school. Being a lawyer is a pretty big important thing. Would it have helped you all if I had said Kansas? I mean, would that
yes.
Would that have been okay? All right, so let's go back and rewind the tape. You're not playing Kansas, okay? You get the point. You're going to overpower the Kansas Jayhawks week in and week out if that's who you're playing against. Give me a break. The point is, you're learning at this level that you don't have Kansas. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Today, pads on for the first time. And I love the sound of 9-on-7 inside run drills. When the pads pop, John, that's what it's all about.
It is. The old man in me.
Oh, boy.
Watching today's practice, it was fine. I couldn't help thinking, I've been talking to Leon Searcy all week. I couldn't help thinking, there's such a difference in what that first day of pads is now. And this is not a knock on what these guys are doing. This practice was fine in terms of this NFL. But boy, is it different. Even the intensity of padded work than it used to be, Schlann. I've been in the NFL. All that aside, it's always good to see the pads. I think there is a little bit more now of working your way back into pads. I expect a lot more intensity moving forward the next couple of days.
Well, but to play on the old man theme there for just a minute, when they used to go in two-a-days.
We're going to leave that on that side of the table, by the way.
Two-a-days,
You
that's
and John
fine.
are sitting
Absolutely.
by each other.
It's called wisdom. We'll share it. But you had two-a-days, and they'd go to full pads, and then in the afternoon they would do what they did today.
Yeah.
Right? They'd slow it down a little bit and be much more technique-focused, and it wouldn't be as brutal. Well, that's just the NFL that we live in. The salary cap has gotten to a point. Guys absorb so much of the salary cap, you can't afford to get guys hurt on the first day of pads.
And that struck me as the big thing today, Brian. Maybe I just noticed it.
Oh, it was obvious.
But there were drills where they're in pads, and just so people know what we're watching, they're in pads and they're tackling, but it's still, I think the word they used was thud pace, where, okay, hit him, but don't hit him. And that's what you have to do. You can't have, your starting inside linebacker coming off the field and completely worn down at the end of camp. It's just not smart. You can't have him hurt. You have to do it this way. So the old man in me doesn't love it, but understand that's how it has to be.
By the way, you were going to do a little youth football coaching. Did you take any of the USA football?
Of course.
So you remember
all gas all the time.
But a lot what they heard, a lot of what those players heard and what the coaches who take this USA football training heard was what they're talking today. Mm-hmm. Thud.
Yeah.
They are talking about a very controlled way to protect players.
I'm guessing Schlinn goes all Oklahoma drill all the time.
Yeah.
Practice.
None of the rules.
Right.
I thought you might.
She gets fined all the time.
Penalty laps. That's Ashland, Coach Ashland for you. The defense, though, does get to contest now. That's been a difference. It was yesterday without pads. It was their first time to really play a little tighter on defense. I think that's why we saw some of the early struggles yesterday. And that will be the theme from here on out. Brian, we get to see the defense actually make some plays.
Well, and for guys like Shaq Griffin and Rayshon Jenkins, I mean, they were talking about it last week. They hated the fact that they had a skill set, a tool, I think one of them said, in their toolbox, and they couldn't pull it out and use it. So, I mean, these guys made rosters or make rosters based on making plays, and when you ask them, hey, just kind of be in the area, don't make plays. In fact, it was Joe Schobert that said, oh, it's great. He said, because I just get in the area and I go, oh, I would have made that play, and then I can lay off. He said that when he was at the microphone.
You can say that for every play.
Yeah, exactly. It's great. I love it because I don't have to actually make the play. Now they have to actually make the play.
That's right. That's going to be the case moving ahead. Remember to subscribe to the official Jaguars Podcast Network on Apple iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you download podcasts. There are a few other options. Give us 5 stars, whatever your option is, and plenty of comments. Time now for Did You Hear This? Marvin Jones Jr., the Jaguars wide receiver, enters his 10th NFL season. How is his preparation different now than it was in year 1, 2, or 3?
A lot more stretching. And if you see me, I have a blue band on at all times, just because I have to keep my hips right at all times. Unless I'm really going deep, then you'll see me take it off, and I'm like, yeah, now you're in trouble. The sun is great for me. So if it's really hot, I like it because my joints and everything are all warm, so I don't have to warm up as much. But I think it's just the preparation. I have a formula that I do, every off season and every camp and during the season that works. And it's and I still feel like year one when I do that. You know what I'm saying? If not, it takes me a little while to warm up, but you guys wouldn't see it, but I'd feel it. But I think it's just knowing my body, and a lot of the times too, like knowing how to run and certain routes. You don't have to run full speed. You're sitting in the window. You're doing that, and if you do that, repetition, it's like second nature.
So we've heard a lot in this offseason from Marvin Jones. He's been in front of the microphone a lot, John, and he's really kind of taken over as that veteran player. I guess you could really say on the offensive side of the ball, he's played the most consecutive years in the NFL. He and Tebow are the same age, but he has played 10 straight years in the NFL, and a lot of those at a high level. So I think the younger guys in that room take to him.
I think what these guys can learn, and I'm not saying they didn't know it before, but what's cool about Marvin Jones, you see sometimes veterans of his age come into a place, and as soon as they get there, you think, well, he's got a year left, and this will be something where I'm watching a player in decline giving it one last swing. You don't get that sense from Marvin Jones. And I thought what was interesting, I think it was in the clip we just played, how he talked about how he has to prepare every day. Mm-hmm. Well, you typically don't make it 10 years in the league if you're starting that process in year 10. Jerry Rice used to talk about it at the end of his career. He played, I think, 21 years. Well, it was what he did in year 2 and year 3, stretching the physical preparation that enabled him to do that. You can't start at year 7 or 8. So I think for Laviska Shenault, DJ Chark, some of the younger players on the team, I'm not a big fan of signing a guy to be a veteran presence. I don't think that's really why you want to sign a guy. But Jones will give them that. If they listen to him, you can tell from the way Jones plays, he's taken care of his body his entire career. So I think it'll benefit the Jaguars receivers. And I think he's been
he's making plays.
Yeah, better than maybe I expected coming in. I don't know that he's going to be 1,000-yard guy. I don't know that he's the WR1 or whatever we call it these days. But I'm hard-pressed to see him not catching 6 or 7 touchdowns minimum. If you get 6 or 7 touchdowns at all 3 wide receivers, you've got 21, 22 touchdowns out of that group. I think he's good for minimum that and minimum making key chain-moving plays every game. I think he's going to give them what they wanted.
Well, they're finding him in the middle of the field, and he's right there. So when you just think about how a defense is going to look and go, all right, well, there's DJ Chark. He's 6'4", and he runs really fast. We better send a safety somewhere in his vicinity. And over here, we've got Laviska Shenault, and they're lining him up, and they're moving him all over the place. I think Jones is the guy who's just going to find, and he talked about it today, finding that spot to sit down and wait for the ball and be there to move the chains. I thought he might be by default wide receiver 1 because he was going to be so advanced in terms of taking advantage of that. I've changed. I'm really excited about Laviska. I've watched him today really with the pads on because he's that physical receiver, and you're going to notice him with the pads on. And he's so smooth. It's like another gear that he's got. Clearly, from year 1 to year 2, he's going to make that leap. But you're changing offense and you're changing quarterback. And there's just something about the way he's playing right now. I think he's going to be the X factor this year. I think he's going to be that guy that just makes those big plays that we all thought were going to go the way of DJ Chark.
I love how comfortable isn't the right word, but when Marvin Jones talked about DJ Chark's contract situation, and he definitely could have skirted around it if he wanted to, and he said, no, we have those conversations.
He's 11-year guy. He's getting paid a couple of times.
And what a resource for DJ Chark during this year. And he said, it was the first week we were in here, and we had that talk about what this year means for DJ Chark, and to have that as a resource off the field as well is huge.
Yeah, Jones basically said, if you get on my coattails, DJ, I'll get you paid.
Yeah. I know how to get you paid.
Pro ball's about the money.
I want somebody like that.
Right? Here is what you have to do.
Season tickets are still available for the 2021 season. Come see the new-look Jags in person at TIAA Bank Field. Visit Jaguars.com or call 904-633-2000. Final thought today. What is the biggest question remaining for you before Sunday's scrimmage inside the stadium, Ashley?
Biggest question.
It can or doesn't have to be football related. Whatever.
I have a lot of questions. I'm going to go, this is very single, but I'm going to go with Kayvon Chason. Watched him today, D-line versus O-line, and there were some times where he definitely struggled against Walker Little. Now you can say that's a great thing for Walker Little, and we sing his praises.
Cam Robinson threw him to the ground a couple of times too.
Yeah, but then he had some where it was a clear sack right by Walker Little. My biggest question is, where is Kayvon Chason right now? I think we all know that he needs to take that next step, and the Jaguars need him to take that next step. Some days he flashes, some days he struggles. More consistency is definitely what we need to see, and I want to know where he is right now.
So the offensive line, the starting 5 that are going into their 3rd year together, have taken every snap together. You haven't seen guys move in and out in team drills. They haven't cross-trained anybody. They haven't tried anybody inside or outside or left or right. I'm curious if anybody can break into that. Could Walker Little take a starting job? If you want to get your best 5 on the field, could you see Cam Robinson move to the right side and Jawan Taylor move inside? Because I think Taylor looks more like a guard at this level than a tackle. Just my opinion. But I'm wondering how set that 5 is, and if there's any way to push them, or if it's just the other 4 guys working for one of the 9 offensive line spots.
Yeah, it feels to me like the latter. I just
yeah, it seems that way.
I know that they want competition, and I suppose Walker Little's talented enough to break through that. It feels to me like it's got to be a home run win to get one of these starting 5 out of the lineup for a couple reasons. You assume, I think, as a coach, that at some point there's going to be depth injury to allow the Walker Little transition to happen. Plus, I just think when you're in front of a rookie quarterback, it's continuity on that has to be job one. And let's make sure he doesn't get hit. Let's make sure there's not weirdness up front. So to me, it would take a home run win.
Did you watch Walker Little, though, today? I mean, boy, he has got nice feet.
Yeah.
Really
he's
moves laterally.
I mean, he's
got to overcome that $13 million 1-year deal for Cam
No,
Robinson.
and Cam's had a good camp, too. I mean, Cam has absolutely had a good camp. The Juwan Taylor thing is interesting to me because he doesn't look like he's got the feet to play outside at tackle.
What I could see is, say someone does get hurt week 5, week 6, and Walker Little gets in the lineup, then I don't see him leaving.
It'd be hard to get him out.
Yeah.
He's...
And by the way, I've heard from more than one person it's about getting the best 5 on the field. Well, just in case Walker Little pushes his way into the lineup, Cam would need to be out there. Juwan is one of the best 5 for sure, but maybe he's a guard. Who knows?
John, what's your biggest question remaining for Sunday?
I'm not sure I have a major question heading into Sunday beyond I keep on talking all off season about I want to see what this defensive front looks like once they really get going. Is it going to be Malcolm Brown in the middle? Is it going to be Hamilton in the middle? Where are these guys going to play? I still don't have a feel, even from watching practice yet, exactly how they're going to look most often. I saw them a little bit today in a 3-4. They look like pure 3-4 with your 2 inside guys, your 2 outside guys. But I think fans looking for that, quote, depth chart, I don't know that you're ever going to actually see a game where it's the straight 3-4 with, Curly Culp, the classic nose tackle. I don't know that you're going to see that. I think it's going to be a lot of hybrid. So that's kind of the question I'm still trying to figure out as I watch it, is exactly how this is going to look. Maybe I'm just smart. I'm not smart enough to see it.
Curly Culp. There is bringing
Make
one
that
of the
argument.
old ones back.
Okay.
There you have it.
Glad you put that out there.
I think my question is still a little bit about the tight ends. James O'Shaughnessy's been out for the last few days with what Urban said it was a sprained ankle. So he hasn't been available. Manhurts, all the rest of those guys have been out there. What does that actually look like in this offense? Because we've talked about that in the offseason, that Bevel may not have utilized the tight end a lot in his past. They didn't really do it a lot at Clemson either, come to think of it. So what is that going to feel like? We may not have that answer before Sunday.
Looks like everyone's about the same. Luke Farrell and Ben Ellefson and Tyler Davis, they've all made plays at different points of training camp this far, but nobody seems to be any better than the others.
Right.
Well, the one nobody mentioned, the big question all through camp is always going to be 16. Can he, for the next 3 or 4 days, you would love going into the scrimmage to have had the last 2 days where he was not as spectacular as with no pads, which was expected. What you still want to see every day of camp is general progression. I thought it was fascinating. I don't know how many people will actually read this deep into the Darrell Bevel story that I write for today.
Why wouldn't they?
But Bevel got really deep into a lot of the install and basically said Trevor today to him looked like he was sort of trying to catch up with it. Hey, we've given him a lot of information. Bevel didn't say that he looked overwhelmed, but he sort of said, look, a lot of information going in. At some point in the next few days, he said Trevor will absorb that, then it'll feel more natural. That's something to watch this week, certainly, how he processes information, how quickly he gets through that, and how quickly things become natural to him.
Remember to subscribe to the official Jaguars Podcast Network on Apple, iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you download your podcast. Give us that 5-star rating. Thanks, everybody.
Hey, thanks for having us, JP.
No. This is everyone's podcast. We do this every week.
Podcast for the people.
This is for the people. Yes, that's John Ozier, Brian Sexton, Ashlyn Sullivan. I'm JP Shadrick. Our thanks to Joe Fortunato, and we'll catch you next time on Jaguars Reporters.